So, how many of you are going to be here tomorrow?
Are you going to be?
I don't know.
Are you?
You were shocked, huh?
So, let's look a little bit at doing. When in this work, when we speak about doing, we're not speaking about all behavior, all activity. We're speaking about momentum. Generally, it's momentum that we enter to feel better. Although we may not realize that that's what's going on, but we enter a momentum to feel better. And instead of trying to get better at feeling, which is really the momentum of this moment that we're going through now. The momentum of this current experience that we're going through is really about the digesting the emotional food. And that boat already left. The emotional food vibration boat already left. And many of us have been doing emotional work for some time. It's unlikely that it's something that's brand new to us. Right? And now we're fast approaching awareness of the vibrational food that's coming. But the vibrational food can't be perceived unless we have the capacity to. Right? And the capacity comes out of digesting the emotional food. The capacity comes out of digesting the emotional food. So, the emotional food is really fear, anger, and grief, is all it is. And that's what we spell it. That's what we put a spell on it. And that fear, anger, and grief has actually been transported from generation to generation to generation. The thing about this experience we're having, which is hard to get initially, but it's not personal. It's not personal, right? And when we take it personally, it's not use, but it's not personal. And by that, the experiences that are at the causal point of our discomfort have been passed from generation to generation to generation. So let's kind of look at that a bit. What's hard for us to see when we enter this experience or we come about this adult experience is that there's a very deliberate way that we come into this world. It's absolutely deliberate. And that can be seen most easily when you look at a child. A child doesn't come out of the womb and just starts talking, right? It doesn't come out of the womb and say, you know, Ma, when you fart, it sounds like an aborigine that's kind of drunk playing a didgeridoo. Doesn't do that, right? Doesn't have anything. And nor does it come out of the womb and start going, it's good to get some movement in this body, you know, just like, right? There's none of that going on. It doesn't have those awareness. The awareness isn't there and has developed that capacity. When a child comes out the womb, it goes, "Ah!" Right? Because it usually realizes where it is. And if it could speak, it would probably say, "Oh, ow, ow." Right. But the first thing a child does is emote. And then it will start to use its emotions as a means to communicate. It'll enter mental awareness. And then it'll develop the capacity to deliberately reach out something, and a child can't do that. You have to feed it. Right. And so there's a movement of the awareness from the emotional through the mental and into the physical. All of us travel along that pathway. And that pathway is even more easily seen in what we call the 7-year cycle. There is a 7-year cycle that unfolds and continues to unfold until we impact it. And that 7-year cycle is no different in the first 21 years of our lives, is no different to downloading software into the hard drive of a computer. It's no different. By the time we're adults, we don't even know there's software in there. What we do is we try and change the hard drive. In other words, we try and change the physical experience and mentally think about what's happening to us physically and try and do something about that. We're completely unaware of the software. But these 7-year cycles are also self-evident. In the first 7 years, we are a child. And as a child, we're energy in motion, right? And if you're a parent, your task in the first few years is to manage energy in motion, right? The child is energy in motion. And then around about 7 years old, that's when we get committed to a mental institution. And every one of us do. And the object of the mental institution is to teach us magic, the art of magic. And it's not magic like Harry Potter. Harry Potter's fantasy, it's not magic. We're real magicians, every single one of us. And our magic is powerful. Very powerful stuff. It's powerful on us because we use it to hypnotize ourselves into believing that is a teapot and that is a cookie jar. So when we go to school, the very first thing we get taught is to spell words, because words are the roots of all spells, right? And once we spell enough words, we get taught how to put them into sentences, which we then use to sentence ourselves and others to certain perceptual frameworks, right? And then once we've learnt enough sentences, we get taught stories. Whose story? His story. Right? And his story is the mental body's version of the vibrational, of reality. It's the story it's telling about what the vibrational really is. And once we embrace the his story, we simultaneously embrace the means by which it is delivered to us. We become storytellers. And if we tell good enough stories, we'll end up on someone's couch telling them our story and paying them to listen. Right? That's called my story or the mystery. Help me sort it out, right? And then, around the age of 14, after that, 7 years in the institution, we stay institutionalized forever after that. But after those first 7 years, we then go through a physiological change. We actually go through, have a physical impact in our being, and we become very much more entranced by the physical world. What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do? How are you going to participate in this physical world? Right? And the physical world really starts to matter in a big way. And by the time we're 21, we now got to go out and earn our living even though we're alive. It's a strange arrangement. And we celebrate it. We go like, yes! Yes! Right? And we do celebrate at 21 because something has ended and something has begun. Right? And what is ended is an experience of downloading something, which we can call imprinting. In the first 21 years, something is deliberately imprinted into the emotional aspect of our being, into the mental aspect, and into the physical. And by the time we're 21, that software runs over and over and over. And what that imprinting does, it makes us very uncomfortable, although we don't realize it, right? By the time we've been imprinted, we are solely about manipulation. Solely about manipulating our experience to have it be another way. The experience we're having is not valid. It's not the one that we're supposed to have, and we're manipulating it to have it. And the word manipulation is beautiful. It's one of my recent discoveries. Right? The word manipulation is like a little boy gets born, and the first thing that happens is a nipple gets thrust in its face, right? And then that's where all the life force appears to be coming from. And then after a while, it just gets taken away and hidden away forever, right? And it spends the rest of its life trying to find it, right? That's called man-nipple-nation. Manipulation, right? And really what manipulation is, it's very powerful. Very, very powerful. What manipulation is an intent to sedate and control the emotional body and to manipulate it, to stop what it's really feeling and to manipulate it into feeling something else, right? And it's mirrored in the world, that behavior is mirrored in the world as in the way men behave towards women, which is manipulation, right? You are not going to be what you are going to be something else. You're either going to be a breeder or a prostitute. Probably, that's about it, right? That's manipulation. You will be so manipulated that there will even be organizations that tell you that you don't even have a capacity to talk to God. You have to talk through us men. We're in charge of that business, right? So it's a very powerful manipulation. If you look at how entire societies, doesn't matter what part of the globe, if we are civilized, we manipulate our women, right? And that's an externalization of it. But as an internalization, we're all doing that to ourselves, whether we're men or women. We're manipulating our emotional body. We're sedating and controlling it and manipulating events to get certain feelings out of it, right? And what's happening is that's coming out of a discomfort. That's coming out of a discomfort. What we can't see is what the emotional body, what the role the emotional body plays in our experience. A very simple way of modeling it is we're brought up in a paradigm in which if a child comes into the room and is angry, the paradigm where we've been in is we'd say, don't be angry, here's a sweet, go and play outside, right? And that anger is just energy in motion. But what happens when you say don't be angry, that energy in motion gets stopped right there in its tracks. It can't complete itself. It goes into resistance. And that child's attention will get hooked into that because that resistance creates friction, and that friction creates heat. And until that energy is allowed to complete and enter resolution, that heat is there, ongoing, 24 hours a day, right? And that sweet, whenever its awareness, whenever it becomes aware of that aspect of its experience, it reaches for a sweet. And the sweet changes its form as it becomes an adult. It becomes all sorts of other things that it, right, tries to stuff down that experience. Right? And what happens is, all the way through our childhood, our first 7 years, we have many experiences that stop the energy in motion, stop it in its tracks. And you know what? Every one of them are deliberate. Although it's very hard for us to see that while we're telling the bad story. Because there's three stories we can tell in this experience that we're having, right? And the one is the bad story, and the bad story goes like this: I had a really bad childhood, really. Everything was hard, and the world is hard, and everyone's against you, and you just have to work hard and just do your best. That's the bad story, right? The world is happening to me. Then, if I do my emotional work and I integrate these things, one day I'll be able to tell the good story. And the good story will be, wow, my childhood was profound. You know, all those impacts that happened to me, I gained something, I gained insight, I gained from it. Those were all blessings. That's the good story. But then there's another story. The story that I call the legend. Right? The good story, the bad story, the legend. Right? And really what we're opening ourselves up to now in this world is the legend. And the legend is kind of unfamiliar to us. The legend is like this. The bad story is, I'm on this ledge and I don't know how I got here. And it's really scary because I could fall over. I could fall over any minute, right? And I don't know why I'm here because it's really scared, right? That's the bad story. The good story is when I stand up and wow, this ledge has really taught me to take responsibility and gain some balance. The legend is when I go to the end of the ledge, right? The ledge end. And I leap into the arms, right? But we have to tell the good story, and then the bad story, and then the legend, right? What happens is, none of us are really aware of this, although that awareness is coming up. None of us are really aware of this friction that's going on within the emotional body, because between the ages of 7 and 14, when we enter the mental institution and we go mental and life becomes a story that we tell ourselves, we lose emotional body awareness, right? An awareness of our emotional body. And any felt perception we had diminishes to the point that it is no longer part of our functioning. We do not go to a job interview and someone says, how's your felt perception? Do you think you can handle that, right? How's your capacity to feel? Right? What's the state of your emotional body? These things are irrelevant in the mental world, in the mental physical world. And so when we shut down our emotional body awareness, felt perception is simply the capacity to feel the consequence of my presence in the world. The capacity to feel the consequence of my presence in the world. When I can feel the consequence of my presence in the world, no one has to tell me how to behave. If I am deciding to manipulate you, I will feel manipulated. If I decided to cheat you, I will feel cheated. I will feel the consequence of my thoughts, words, and deeds before I even put them into play. And that will oversee my behavior. The heart will guide me. And there is an expression where there is love, there is no law. And while we have no emotional body awareness or felt perception, we do need laws, because we cannot feel the consequence of our behavior. And the consequence of our behavior is the outcome of the causal point. And these points of resistance, when we enter the mental world and we start to spell things, we'll spell these things. There's 3 spells that we work with in the emotional body: fear, anger, and grief. Those are the only 3 spells we need to concern ourselves with, right, to awaken from those spells. But when we're feeling this in our emotional body, it's very uncomfortable. And so we develop behaviors to sedate and control our awareness, to self-medicate ourselves, right? And that's why the doing is coming out of trying to feel better. But what we don't see is when I sedate and control this experience within myself, when I stop allowing myself to feel these energetic situations imprinted, because this is the imprinting process. When you say, don't be angry, have a sweet, go and play outside, that child has just been imprinted. Its emotional body has just been imprinted. And what that means is the emotional body, under those circumstances, has a way that it now moves or that it doesn't move. And its movement involves some level of resistance. Right? And that resistance will keep surfacing. The resistance will become spells, thoughts and words and stories, and then physical circumstances in our life experience. But because we have no emotional body awareness, because we don't have any felt perception, if we do not have felt perception at that causal point of the emotional body, we cannot perceive the connection between cause and effect, between what's going on here and consequence. And when I cannot see the connection between cause and effect, what it happens to me perceptually, it looks like the world is happening to me and instead of through me. If I'm angry or upset, it's not because that experience is surfacing, an awareness of it is surfacing in my being. It's because you're doing something that's making me angry or upset. Right? So let's just look at that a little bit. That upset. Because that upset is the thief in the night. That upset is the thief in the night. It's not coming as a hallelujah. It's coming as hell is a toilet. Hell is a loo, yeah, right? And it's very good to digest it and pass it through, right? Just because when we don't, right, it leads to all sorts of experiences around us. So let's look at an upset, because to understand the dynamics of an upset enables us to be able to perceive the emotional nutrition that is being given us. The emotional nutrition, which is intent, is to awaken our felt perception and give us the vitamins and minerals that are available in the emotional body. So there are vitamins and minerals we get from physical food that develop that help us with the physical. There are vitamins and minerals we get from mental food, right? That develop the imagination, you could think of that, right? And there are vitamins and minerals we get from the emotional food. And those are really important in developing responsibility, or the ability to respond rather than react. Now, a good example of an upset that we can use is of someone coming to work. And they come to work and they're hurrying. If you notice that people that are always late are always hurrying, and that if you removed hurrying, you wouldn't be late. But a person who's hurrying into work and they walk past the open door of their boss and they look in and the boss goes, right? And the moment they look at their boss, the boss does that. They go through a shift in themselves. It's a sudden shift that they experience. And that shift is what we can call an upset, right? And when someone gets upset, what happens is they have gone into an altered state. It can't be seen yet, but when a person is in upset, it's a cookie jar or it's a teapot. And nothing you can say is going to persuade them otherwise, right? So walking past the door, looking in the boss's office, let's say, you're my boss, right? And so I walk past the door and I look at you and you go, right? And I walk past and I go to my office, and now what's going to happen is predictable because I've entered an altered state. And my behavior at that point is absolutely predictable. It's almost robotic, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm moving from the physical through the emotional, through the mental, and into the physical, along that pathway of awareness that we move in as we experience the adult world. We're continually moving along that pathway of awareness. We just don't realize it. So the physical circumstances, here, the emotional circumstance is that the reason I'm hurrying and everything is because there was an experience sometime in my life in relation, let's say, maybe to my father, in which I was imprinted. And the way I was imprinted was that I could never do enough. I could never be correct. I could never get it right. Right? No matter what I did, it wasn't enough. Because he wasn't enough to himself, so I could never have been enough in his eyes. And the imprinting came out of events where I tried to do my best and I hurried, but it was never enough. Right? And I've carried the fear about it, the anger about it, the grief about it with me. And whenever I'm in a relationship with an authority figure, it reflects it. But I don't know that. What happens is whenever I'm in a relationship with an authority figure, it surfaces in my awareness. That wound, that imprint, surfaces in my awareness, right? And so my relationship at work is always going to bring it up with my boss. I don't know that. I don't know that it's the emotional charge that's making me hurry and not be able to concentrate and get to work late. I don't know that. And it's right at the surface. So the emotional is there, and then I look at him, and he looks at me like that, right? And immediately it brings my awareness to that discomfort. But because I don't have emotional body awareness, I don't even know that's going on. I'm physically transfixed. The funny thing is, when a baby is born, if you watch a baby right when it's born, it's kind of, right? And you can put a little thing above its crib. It just goes round and round. It goes, wow, 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 Because it's tripping. It's like it's taken a massive dose of LSD. Everything's moving. Oh, wow. Everything's moving. Why? Because everything is in motion. It's living in an energy in motion experience. Everything is energy in motion. Then it grows up, okay, and it becomes a scientist. And it develops a powerful telescope that it uses to look at matter closely, and it says, it's moving! It's really moving! Right? Nothing is still, really. There is nothing there. Right? So how do we get from the one place to the other? From having energy in motion until everything matters to us. And it really does. Everything matters so much. Everyone's worried about the matter situation being lost, right? So as I walk past and I receive this jolt of awareness of this emotional signature, I don't know, I'm physically transfixed. To me, that's the causal point. Right? You are making me angry. And the moment that happens and I get upset, my behavior is so predictable. The first thing I'm going to do is go from the emotional into the mental. I don't deserve to be treated like this. I mean, I do my work. Okay, I'm late, 15 minutes. But I do my work. I work at night. I do it. I take it home and I do it. And I get everything done. I don't deserve this sort of treatment. Hypnosis, right? And if I hypnotize myself enough, if I tell the story enough, I will enter a physical behavior. I will go from the emotional to the mental and into the physical. In other words, I will do something about this. And what I'm going to do is do whatever it takes for me to feel better. In other words, to stop this feeling inside of me that came to the surface of my awareness. Whatever it takes, I will do. And if it's drastic, if it's a powerful feeling, I may do something so drastic like, you know what, I've had enough of working for you, right? I don't deserve this sort of treatment. Here's my resignation, right? That's it. One for the workers. I showed him. I showed him. I showed him, right? I'm a revolutionary in the workforce. And that night I'll go to the bar, right? And at the bar, because I'm feeling good, feeling strong, I'll tell my story. I showed him, and they go, yeah, because I'm buying the drinks, you see. I'm feeling so strong, I'm buying drinks for everyone. And while I'm buying drinks for everyone, everyone's happy to listen to my story. You showed him, I showed him, you showed him, I showed him, right? And then when I stop buying the drinks, someone will have the courage to ask me the question, so what are you going to do now? And it's that question that starts breaking my trance, my altered state. Because what I can't see is at the moment I got triggered, right? And I got upset. I stepped into a perceptual memory bank. The lens, you see, the lens in the emotional body really governs the perception of the being. The being is vibration. And whatever lens is in the emotional body, that vibration passes through and sees the mental and the physical according to the lens. And if the lens is anger, the world is angry. And I'm justified in my anger. My story that he causes me upset will stand up in a court of law. I could even sue him and win a case that he is the cause of my suffering. Because he's a teapot. Right? I'm in an altered state. I'm really in an altered state. And nothing you can tell me in that state of hypnosis is going to tell me otherwise. Right? I'm in a perceptual memory bank. But so I can act physically and do something, or I can act mentally. If I don't quite go to the physical about it, I can do something mental. It will look like this. We need to have a talk. You and me. Right? If anyone comes to you and says, we need to have a talk, take note that you are dealing with someone who is in an altered state. If I look at you and I see my Father, I no longer see you. I see a teapot or a jar of cookies. And if I start behaving around you like I did around my Father, I'm in a state of delusion. If someone comes to you and says, we need to have a talk, you know you are dealing with someone who's delusional. Don't join them in that place. So, just allow them to have their say, because if you start joining them in the place, you too will become delusional. Nothing can accomplish when there's a teapot here and a cookie jar and they're just trying to get cookies and tea. That's what a state of delusion is. I can no longer see you, I see my Father. You have disappeared. In fact, while I've been working for you, I've never seen you. While I have that emotional imprint from my childhood. Because whenever it comes around an authority figure, it comes to the surface. It's triggered by it. Right? And even my job, the way my job is put together, everything is about this imprint. I've got this job not because I want it, not because it's the joy of my heart, but if I'd really do well at this job, maybe I'll get the appreciation I've been trying to get since I was whatever. The entire job is a structure that is maintaining my emotional imprint. It's maintaining my fear, anger, and grief. It's holding it for me. Right? So, what happens is, when I wake up in the morning and I realize I've resigned my job, And I'm pretty not going to get a very good reference from... Then I say to myself, who the hell was that person who just destroyed my life? Right? You know what it's like. You get an email. It really pushes your buttons, right? So what you do is send. No, we're back. No, oh, no, right? Because we go into an altered state. It's like being in a trance, right? It's like being in a trance. And we're awakening from the trance because it's becoming apparent. Our behavior is becoming transparent, right? When I try and adjust the quality of my experience mentally or physically by talking about it or by doing something about it, I enter a revolutionary behavior that takes me back to the starting point of the upset. Because even if I leave this job and go and find someone else to work for, I'm going to hurry around, I'm going to be in a state of anxiety, and I'm going to treat you like my father, and I'm going to end up in the same situation, right? You've heard of déjà vu? Déjà vu? Right? The same people just keep showing up in our lives, right? Déjà vu. There you are again. There you are again. Right? So that's when, if grace shines upon me, it really is grace. What brings someone to the awareness of their experience and another not? It's impossible to say. And that's why, conversionism is insulting in the eyes of God, right? It's absolutely insulting. Because if I am going to gain an awareness, right, of my behavior, it's given to me. And if not, not. But if I am blessed to gain awareness to me, something may cross my path that will awaken me from the hypnosis to the point to let me know that whatever's happening here has nothing to do with you. It may appear so, it may stand up in a court of law, but that's because I don't have emotional body awareness. And I don't realize that the anger is within me, and what I'm trying to do here is clean the mirror to get rid of the pimples. Right? So if something comes across my path and brings my attention to my emotional condition and says, don't you realize that that feeling has been with you in that job, in that job, in that job, in that job. And that whenever you go into that particular circumstance, that you behave in that way, that you feel those things. But what's common is he looks different, and he looks different, and he looks different, and he looks different. The story I tell myself is kind of has a theme to it, but what's identical through every experience of that upset is that when I'm around him, I feel the same, I feel the same, I feel the same, I feel the same, and actually I've been feeling that way ever since I was a child. And it's not personal. Because you know what? My father felt that way. And his father felt that way. And his father felt that way. And it goes back as far, way, way, way back. It's just now that we have the awareness to impact it. It's called the human race, right? The human race looks like this, okay? One generation passes the baton on to their children. Their children grab the baton and they run. Whoa! And then they have children and pass it on to them, right? And they grab it and they run. It's called the human race, right? But what's so beautiful about being alive now is we go stop and go, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? I don't want to be under the spell anymore, right? It's a spell. It's a spell. And that's when we are able to impact it. And what impacts it is being with it without condition. Not doing anything. Not doing anything, right? Because what we've done is, when it's entered our awareness, we've treated that experience just like the child that comes in the room who's angry. When the child comes in the room is angry, if I have anger within me that's unintegrated, the last thing I want is an angry child around me, because they're going to reflect it. They're going to bring it up in me, and I've spent my whole life mastering, sedating, and controlling it out of my awareness. I have all sorts of self-medicating behaviors designed to keep that anger out of my awareness. So the last thing I want is a child coming in and reflecting it. So I'll give it anything, just has a sweet, go outside, right? And in fact, we go around the world helping everyone in that way. Anyone who reflects our experience, we try and physically manipulate them or tell ourselves a story that makes us feel better. And our story really is, if I come to you and I say, let's talk about it, what I'm really saying is, I'm coming here to get you to tell me that I'm right, so I feel better about what's going on. The moment you tell me that I'm right, I'm out of here, it's all good, it's all good. I feel better. I can't feel anything now, but I feel better. I haven't got any better at feeling. I've even now completely calloused that awareness of my feeling more, but I feel better, right? And if I physically manipulate the situation, I do something physical, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take the mirror out of my life. I'm getting rid of the mirror. Getting rid of the mirror. I'm not going to look in that mirror anymore. Oh, there you are, right? Wherever I go, there you are. Wherever I go, there I am. It's going to show up, right? So physical, mental approaches to this condition are revolutionary. They'll always cause me to revolve back into the same scenario. It's hard to see that when I don't have emotional body awareness, because what's repeating over and over, and some things repeat almost identically in feeling every 7 years. Boom. Boom, right? What's repeating is the feeling, that uncomfortable feeling. And it's surfacing as stories and as physical reflections. Once I realize that, I can impact it. And the way I impact it is the same way that I would interact with a child who's angry if I myself had no anger within me. If a child comes in who's angry and I have no anger, I'm not going to try and help that child. Usually helpful behavior comes from helpless people, right? I don't want to help that child. I don't want to interfere with it. I don't want to interfere about what's going on. If a child comes in the room and it's angry, I want to enter compassion. And compassion tells us what it is. You can come to me and I will allow you to pass on and I won't interfere with you. Compassion. Compassion is a state of being, not a state of doing. Compassion isn't about going around and adding vices to everyone's life. Here, I have some advice there. That's not compassion. It's not going to do things to the people that reflect my discomfort. Let me help you. Because if you let me help you, I can stop you from showing me how uncomfortable I am. Believe me, I know how to do that, right? Because I do that to myself all the time. Compassion is different. Compassion is when the child comes in the room and it's angry. Compassion looks like this. Oh, you're angry. That's interesting. Something must have made you angry. Your anger is absolutely valid. If it's happening, it's valid. If it's happening, it's valid. But am I going to react or respond to it? Tell you what, I'll respond to it. Because I don't have any anger in myself. So I can be with you without interfering. Because if I have anger, I'll go into fear that this is something going to rub off on me, right? So I'll be with you. You be angry and I will be with you. You be angry. You have an absolute right to feel angry. It's valid, and I will be with you. And what will happen if you be with the person who's angry or the child who's angry, that anger, that energy in motion won't get blocked. It'll enable to complete itself and go to a point of resolution. And what that will look like, it'll peak. It'll look like all hell is going to break loose. And then suddenly, there'll be an opening, there'll be tears, there'll be calm, and out of the calm will come a playfulness, and the child will go out and play without having to be told to or have anything stuck in its mouth. And that experience will be gone. It'll never come up on the radar. It'll never be reflected in some unintegrated form as a life experience or as stories. It's come to resolution. It's complete. Right? So when I realize that the only way to impact my ongoing experience of anger towards my authority figures is through compassion, then I can begin the journey of containment. Containment is not sedation or control. Containment is not sedation or control. Containment means I'm going to hold in my full awareness my anger. I'm not going to try and change it. I'm just not going to entertain its stories, because anger tells the best stories in the world. I'm not going to entertain its stories, nor am I going to let those stories drive me into behavior, because I know that if I enter that behavior, I'm going to make such a disturbance around me, I'm going to have to clear that up afterwards. Once I regain awareness, I have to go around like, whoa. You know, like, sorry, I can have my job back. I'm really sorry, right? Whatever I have to do to undo now that mess, right? So containment means not sedating and controlling it from my awareness, not changing it, not trying to figure it out, not trying to understand it, not saying, okay, my anger is barbed wire, tangled, dripping with blood, and now I'm going to change it into balls of angelic light. And then I'm going to go into my happy place. It's none of that. That's called interference. That's interfering with myself. That's invalidating my experience. That's saying what's happening to me is not supposed to be happening. Right? That's religious, man. That's what our religions do. Our religions say, you're born bad. Everything about you is bad. There's nothing you can do about that. We have a plan, though. It involves money and groveling. And if you give us enough money and groveling, we'll guarantee you at the end of this madness that you're going through, which is, it's just, you're just born that way, right? That you will get a chance, something better will happen. Not now. You must die first one day before it can happen. While you're alive, it's not going to happen, because you're really bad. You're born that way. Right? That's a complete invalidation of our experience. Right? Now there's no hope, because we've invalidated it, right? And that really, that consciousness comes out of one of the biggest misinterpretations of our time. You know, there was a great teacher who said, I am the light, I am the way, none come to the Father but through me. And that was taken and really used in a bad way on us. Because what that teacher was saying is, my experience is the light, my experience is the way. I cannot enter vibrational awareness unless I go through the parameters of my own experience. My own experience is the truth. And when I accept my experience as the truth, it will walk me along the straight and narrow into the vibrational. But if I think I'm supposed to be having another experience than the one I'm having, now I'm lost in the wilderness. I'm lost in the wilderness. And the wilderness is the revolutionary behavior. Because when I run from you, and I end up with you and do the same thing, and end up with you and do the same thing, I'm lost in the wilderness. Right? I'm lost in the wilderness. So, containment, right? It comes to my awareness. This is an emotional thing. I've had emotional printing as a child. You know, all of this stuff. Okay, now, I don't have to understand any of this. I just have to bring compassion to the causal point of what's unfolding. I have to be with it without condition. In other words, take the conditions I've placed on it, on sedating, controlling my awareness of it, on not allowing it to come to a point of resolution. Take the conditions off it. And it's very simple to do that, although I have no value for that, because in the world there is only value for doing, not doing. Right? And even when I've commenced that, it's organic. Right? Just because I get it straight away, that if I be with my emotional self, that things will come to a point of resolution, it's not going to stop me getting upset. I'm still, until I've brought this causal point to a point of resolution, and even the unfolding of that to resolution is organic. It doesn't happen just because, no, I figured it out, okay, do it. Okay, my schedule is 5 o'clock today, I'm going to integrate this particular emotional issue. By 5:30 I need to be at a meeting. So we'll be done by 5:25, get in the car, go to the meeting. Okay, that's called manipulation. Right? That's the mental body's version. Right? It's about the fact that I'm now realizing that it's the emotional condition, and I'm going to start being with that whenever it arises. But still, I'm still in a hypnotized state that has such a powerful hypnotic impact on me that whenever I see you, I'm hypnotized. Even when I'm intellectually get what's going on, right? So what happens is there's a graduation, and it requires becoming present in an altered state. Becoming present in an altered state. It is the hardest, the bravest human being is the one who intends becoming present in an altered state. There is no braver endeavor. There is no more challenging thing than to undertake that. Because it's humiliating when you get it mentally and you still get your butt kicked by the universe, right? Sucker punched. So I come to work and I know that he's the messenger and that what he's telling me, what's happening here is the message. And the message is that I'm angry and that I was imprinted as a child. I know all that. I read it in a book. So I know it, right? In other words, I just got the information, that's all, right? And so when I walk past the office and I look at him and I get triggered, I get upset. Ugh, I don't deserve this. This is, I'm tired of this, putting up with this. And this may carry on for 20 minutes before I start regaining consciousness in this altered state. And I go, whoa, boy, I got triggered again. Oh, didn't even see that hit me, right? Fortunately, I haven't resigned yet and gone and had the talk, right? And then I will get caught, then I'll graduate and gain more presence, right? So I might walk past the door and he goes, right? And I go, oh, no, we need to have a talk, right? And in the middle of that, I gain consciousness, I regain consciousness. We need to have a talk, but don't worry about it. Maybe something, later. And it's nothing actually. Right? And then I'll graduate to get enough presence so that when I know I come to work, I'm going to look at him and I'm going to feel angry. Because I know it's a trigger, it's a powerful trigger. So I walk past the door and he looks at me like that, right? And I feel the anger come up and I go to my office and I feel the anger. I feel it in my muscles. I feel in my solar plexus. My head feels hot. It's kind of hard for me to function mentally because anger fractures the mental body, right? But I'm just going to stay with it. I'm going to operate as best as I can. I'm not going to sedate and control it. I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to let it be there. And it may stay most of the day. And I'm just sitting with the awareness of it. Because what's happening is I'm not trying to feel better, but I am getting better at feeling. By being with the feeling of it, I'm awakening my feeling body. I'm awakening my feeling. It's serving a purpose, right? And then that evening I'll come home, take care of my responsibilities at home, and maybe now I can have a bit of quiet time and just sit with this and go, okay, let's take a look at what that was about. Now I can use the physical and mental aspect of my experience to bring it into my awareness. I can say, okay, what happened today? Right, I was walking into work as normal. Actually, I was running into work because I was late. And, he looked at me that way. It really drives me crazy the way, and then suddenly the feeling comes up. And I go, okay, the mental and physical have done their part. The physical reflection and the mental. And now I'm just going to use the physical emotional together. In other words, where do I feel this anger? In my being. Somewhere in my body it's going to be there. And I'm going to be with it. Without condition. In other words, I'm not going to try and do anything with it. I'm not going to try and put it on a schedule. I'm not going to try and channel it up my chakras. I'm not going to do anything to it, right? I'm going to be with it the same way I would be with a child. In fact, that's really what's going on. My anger that I'm feeling, that feeling is my child. It's me 7 years and younger. And that's how that part of me is feeling. And it's coming to me and saying, what do I do? I'm just so uncomfortable, right? I'm so angry. And I'm going to say, you know what? Your anger is valid. Because it's here, it's valid. And now I'll be with you. I will be with you while you're angry. I'll be with you, right? And that's when we enter, the greatest image for that is the Madonna and the child. The Madonna and the child is the image of compassion and containment, right? The Madonna's not saying, well, how did you get here? and who are you anyway? And do I rock you this way or do I rock you that way? Or how long am I supposed to hold you for, right? No mental going on, it's just being with. Being with the cradle, right? Cradling, and out of the cradle comes the birth. There will be a death and a birth. There will be a birth out of the cradle. And if I be with it, right, that energy knows how to unfold itself to resolution. By being with it, what I'm doing is I am digesting it. I'm digesting it. I'm allowing it to begin digestion. And I do not have to oversee that process. If I eat an apple, right, I do not put it in my mouth and eat it and then go, okay, move to the right, add this chemical and that chemical, right, move towards the colon, right, now navigate yourself towards the anus, right. I don't have to do that. I don't have to tell my food how to digest. There's an intelligence in it, right? It's the same with digesting the emotional signature that has been brought from generation to generation to generation, and now I'm aware of it, fully aware of it, and now I can digest it. I simply be with it and it will begin to digest. And however it unfolds, because when I put attention on it, what I'm doing is I'm actually listening to it. It's like watching a bird in a tree. When I watch a bird in a tree, I'm not trying to get the bird to do something. I'm just watching it. When I listen to a song on the radio, I'm not trying to get the song to change. I'm just letting the song play. I'm either reacting to it or responding to it, but the song's playing, right? So it's listening. It's really, what I'm doing is I'm listening to it. I'm watching it with the eyes of my felt perception, and I'm listening to it with my heart. That's how the heart listens. It doesn't listen with these ears. It doesn't look with these eyes. It uses felt perception. And it'll go through to its own point of resolution. And resolution is not release, right? There's a big difference. Many of us have done emotional work, and we've done release work. Release work is when I take a pillow, and I put it on the ground, and I go, take a stick, and I say, that's my daddy. Right? Until I feel better. Until I feel better. But I don't get better at feeling that way. Because getting better at feeling is about sitting in the charge. Okay, this charge has been driving me all my life. It drives me to work and hurrying. I'm running from it all the time. It's driving me. It's this discomfort. It's a charge. And what I want to now is take charge. I want to be in charge of my emotional experience. And to be in charge means I have to turn around and allow the charge to come and be in the charge. Be in charge, right? Be in the charge. And it will unfold to a point of resolution, and part of that will be death, a death experience. And the death experience, many of us can't recognize the death experience unfolding, although we know it is because it feels like we're dying. That's a clue. If I sit in the charge, I will feel like I'm dying, right? And it will be reflected in my mental body, because my mental body will say, I can't do this anymore. This is too hard. It's never worked. There is no hope. There is no future. God is dead. Right? I might as well just die. Right? It's all over. That is a mental reflection of the death experience unfolding. And what the death is, there is a death that has to take place. And the death is that part of myself that I manufactured out of that emotional signature, that pain. That part of myself that I manufactured, that behavior that has become a means to feel better from that pain. When I integrate that pain, when I bring it to resolution, all that person that I made up, that behavior, that aspect of my personality is going to die. It must die, right? And so there will be a death, right? And if I'm doing my work, I will die daily. There will be chances for me to die every day, right? To die to those parts. And when I go through the death experience, I will know it's complete, because I'll get to a point where I'll feel, I might go through tears, for me, I burp sometimes, right? I may go through tears, but I will know I've reached resolution, because I will enter a state of peace. Suddenly there will be an opening, and what's opening is not really my heart opening, but I'm opening, part of my emotional body is opening to my heart, right? And I'll feel that opening, and because I'm opening to my heart, that radiance of the vibration that's always been there, which has been distorted by the lens of that anger, will reveal itself to just be peace. The peace was always there. I've just cleared that lens, right? That energy has moved to resolution, and it's now not reflecting anger. It's now just the peace that it always was. And I will feel that. And when I put my attention on my boss or the person that triggered me, I'll feel nothing but gratitude, because I will realize what a gift this was. I couldn't see it. My insight is shut down, so I couldn't see this inside myself. It had to be shown to me outside in order for me to see a reflection of it, so I could integrate it. And I will know if I've resolved it, because it will impact my 3D experience in a very real and intimate way. See, intimacy is into me and see, not into you and see. Right? I will become more intimate with myself through containing this and being with this feeling. I'll become way more intimate with myself. And so what will happen is, I'll get up in the morning, won't be in a hurry, and I just feel different this morning, because I feel more, actually, is what's happening. I feel more. But my behavior is different. I don't even know that. I don't even realize that. I just go about my day, and the next thing I arrive at work and I'm on time. I go, wow, I didn't even make that happen. That's a miracle in my world, right? And then I walk past my boss's office and I look in, right? And he goes, but I don't see a teapot or a jar of cookies. I actually see him for the first time. For the first time, I see you. And when I see you, because I'm more intimate with myself, I'm inclined to be more intimate with you. So I just stop and I go, hey, how's it going? How's it going? And we start to chat, because I feel open. And because I feel open, you're open. It's just a natural how the mirror works, right? And then because you feel open, and I say, so how's it going? And you go, well, I'm a bit, I've been having a hard time, actually. Been having a hard time, and I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but, like, I've been struggling from constipation, like. And I realize in that moment how powerful the story is I've been telling myself. It was never true. It was never true, and it never is. No story is true. Right? No story told by fear, anger, or grief is true. Even if it stands up in a court of law. Even if it wins you $1 million, it still wasn't true. Right? There were no weapons of mass destruction. Right? So I might be more open to you and go, I'll share something from my experience, right? I've been a really angry person. The weirdest thing today is the first day I had a really good bowel movement. I too have been, and I figured it out. I can't stop hating, and I'm constipating, right? Can't stop hating, right? When we have so much rage in our system, it dries out the stomach lining. Just cannot have a decent bowel movement. Can't let go of anything because I'm holding on to it through my anger, right? But I don't even know how angry I am because I don't have emotional body awareness, right? So by digesting that, I receive nutrition. By digesting my emotional food, these imprints are food delivered to us across time and space that have a nutrition for a certain development. And the basic nutrition is this. We can't see our fear, anger, and grief in the world, right? I think what we're going to do now is literally take a toilet break. Okay? Some of you might want to go to the bathroom. And so let's take a break for that for about 5 minutes and come back and finish off this evening. Okay? Because some of you are not coming back tomorrow, so let's take this to a point of closure. But I can feel the bladder strain. So let's take care of that, come back and continue by 1:45, and we'll just do 15 minutes more together and set ourselves up for tomorrow.